Hey you guys, here's a quick video about what a good lab report looks like. Now, a lab report, the labs that we're going to be doing, I try to call them investigations because a true experiment is like something you don't know what's going to happen. Now, you guys, most of the time we think we know what's going to happen because these experiments have been done over and over and over. In the inquiry manual, the lab inquiry manual that you'll see in D2L, each experiment opens up with investigation questions or questions. Can this happen? How is this measured? So the goal for your experiment is to do the experiment and then answer those questions. So here is a quick picture of somebody that did an experiment and then submitted their information online. And that information, these scans of these handwritten pages were put in a document, a Word document, and they were scanned in such a way that made them very, very legible. So there's a pre-lab that's for each experiment. So you'll see this pre-lab was written here. You know, I like to highlight. So here's the pre-lab, and then write out those pre-lab questions. If you like to type and you make it better for you, then you can do that too, especially since we're doing this all online. Now for the lab practical though, if you're going to type things, you need to print it out and put it in your lab notebook, because when you do your lab practical, you will only have your lab notebook for information. So here's the first page of this lab report showing the pre-lab. Now what's missing in here is, what was missing on the previous page was the reagent table. Normally there is a reagent table, and a reagent table is shows the reagents that you will be using for each experiment. Reagent, see if I can spell this. A reagent table, that should be there. And the reason it wasn't in this report is because we were not attending labs at that time. So I said, don't worry about a reagent table. There should be a reagent table and then a fun or interesting fact about one of the chemicals. Each student can choose their own. I call them fun facts because I've read a lot of this stuff many times, and sometimes I like to see something different. So see what fun facts you can come up with about a chemical that maybe I don't know. So that should have been on the previous page. Now on your in your lab notebook, you can go to, what we do is go to the procedure. The procedure is showing exactly what you're doing. Not exactly, I mean, it's kind of in general. In this experiment, the goal was to use abbreviations and use as little text as possible, because sometimes we write too much, and the idea was to use kind of abbreviations, delta meaning heat in this case. And then on this side, this is the 2-column format idea where you separate your notebook page into 2 halves. And it can be halves, it can be, 2/3 on this side and 1/3 on that side. That's up to you. But either way, you have procedure on one side and you have data and observations on the other side. That other than those data observations should be specific enough that I could understand them. There should be units on all numbers. There should be leading zeros on all decimal numbers like that. There should be descriptions. There should be phase labels on your chemicals. So you can see that this student did a very good job of writing chemical reactions and phase labels and observations. So, and then each page is signed. I took away their signature here, but you should have a signed page and a date on that. And when you guys actually do the experiment in class, I will sign as the witness on your first page. This is a continued. This is the student's procedure continued. So it just keeps on going. Reactions, more data and observations, signing each page and dating each page, and then scan in the lab notebook and put it in a document as for your lab report. Final page of her lab notebook. And then here's a calculation section that they did, just to show the calculations that were done for this experiment. Sign and date each page. Now there's a typewritten portion where there's a summary that you write. The goal is to just write a summary of what you did and what you observed, and then inputting any tables. I like to see at least 1 table for each lab report, maybe 2. The goal is to write a lab report or write a summary of what you did and what you observed, so that a layman could read it, or another fellow student, and understand what you did and your results. Calculations were shown again. There's a caption. You'll notice this is a caption. I am a stickler for captions because just inputting a picture or table is kind of meaningless. you really want to put in that table, say what's in the table, and there you can even put a little bit more interpretation in the caption. Conclusions, then you should write a conclusion, the reason the investigation was done, and the main results, and then any error analysis goes in here of why you think that errors were made, and if they were made, don't just say, I'm sure there were human errors made. Well, that's obvious. But as far as what those errors were that you think may have caused a trouble for your experiment. I guess if you don't have any errors that you think may have caused, it's just then you don't really have much to list. But at the same time, you think, well, there's got to be an error somewhere. But that's, I think sometimes then we're fishing for error, which, I'm still not sure about that. Error analysis can take on many forms. So the goal is to just look at your experiment and see where in the experiment you may have improved it. That's what I like to see in the conclusion. This is what I did. This was my main experiment. This is my main thing that I did. This is my main result. And then this is what I would do next time to make it better, or to fix a problem that I think I had, or something like that. And then there'll be post-lab questions. And those post-lab questions you'll find in D2L. I usually post those on the same day as you finish your experiments. You can come in and look at those post-lab questions, because our post-lab questions a lot of times are tailored to our lab, because it doesn't go the same every year, believe it or not, and things change, and then I like to change things, and then I have new questions to ask and to investigate, and that's what you guys are for. You guys are slave labor to figure out why things happen chemically that I don't have time to experiment on my own. So hopefully that didn't make anybody mad. I'm smiling. Can you see me? Okay, I was trying to get a video on there. But anyway, that's the end of that experiment, this lab report, and hopefully that made sense for how you would create your lab report for online submission.